Okay, well, we are back. We are live on the interwebs, and we will give this a few moments to kind of get itself situated and let some people chime in from a couple different sources. So we'll see what happens. We'll give this just another couple seconds. All right. Well, welcome back. I'm Coach Neil, and just want to welcome you to the channel, phdsynergy.com. And we're going to talk about creating some metabolic momentum for you in 2026. How you can take, New Year's resolutions, new year, new you. How does that really apply to you? And so we talked about a few things yesterday. Um, we covered some of the common causes of weight gain or weight loss resistance: poor diet, poor sleep, lack of movement or activity, a negative mindset, and how awareness in those different areas can lead to options and opportunity. And so today we're going to be talking about the next essential step in this process: readiness to change. Because once you know what's wrong in an area, what needs attention, the next logical question is, are you truly ready to make a change? Are you truly ready to do something about it? Um, Everyone can have the best intentions, but what are you going to put back behind of those intentions? And there's no wrong answer. It's a lot of self-evaluation. What are you prepared to do? And this section, we're going to talk about helping you understand where you are in the readiness spectrum, because it's not an all or nothing thing. How you move forward from one to the next at your own pace, not somebody else's. So we'll just dive right in. What is readiness? What does that mean? Readiness to change, it's not all or nothing. There is a spectrum that you move through the different stages. Psychologists call this the trans-theoretical model of change. It's a big word, trans-theoretical model. But the short version, there's 5 stages of readiness or lack thereof. And you start at pre-contemplation. You don't see any, you're not seeing any need to change right now. Whether you see something, you may say, yeah, I need to one day work on that, but I'm not ready to even consider it right now. That's pre-contemplation. So before contemplating, before you're ready to even think about it, you're kind of dismissing it. That's step 1. Step number 2 is you go from pre-contemplation to contemplation. You're aware of the problem, but you're not sure how to start. You'd like to start, but you really don't have any idea how to go about doing it. So you've gone from just dismissing it in the pre-contemplation phase to, you're like, okay, I see it's a problem. I know I need to deal with it, but golly, I just have no idea how. Step 3, preparation. This is where you're going to be making the small steps or the small plans to begin. What do you need to do? Do you need to talk to somebody? Do you need to find someone who's been there and done that? Do you need to go look things up on Dr. Google? Please don't. Chat GPT, have an educated AI, interaction with that. Talk to your doctor, talk to a health coach, talk to someone who has some knowledge on this. That's the preparation part. That's where you're starting to get your ideas in line, get your concepts. Even if you have to adjust those as you go, what is healthy, what is good sleep, what is all of those things. But once you start to get it, then you start to put a plan, the sketch of a plan in place. And that's the preparation phase. That's okay, I'm going to do this. And maybe you start to set out a calendar and, January 1st, hit the gym. January 2nd, hit the gym. Make a grocery list instead of going to the grocery store hungry. You start to plan some of these action steps that you're going to take for yourself. And so we have pre-contemplation, you're dismissing it. Contemplation, you need to do something, but you're not sure how to start. Preparation is where you begin to kind of put some of the pieces together and maybe even take a little baby step or two just on your own. The action step, that's you're actively beginning to change your habits. That's where maybe you've hooked up with a health coach, with a doctor or a provider, maybe a fitness trainer. Maybe you've started tracking your food and you're doing these things now regularly. You're actively taking these steps. It's an action plan. It's the action part of action plan. And so pre-contemplation, contemplation, preparation, action, and then the fifth and final stage is maintenance. And that's where you're staying consistent long term, where you've ingrained some of these good habits. Hopefully they're good habits. You've ingrained these habits into your daily life, your day-to-day, activity, and even on the mental side, the neural side, you've created some new pathways to where this is how I roll. This is just who I am. This is what I do. This is how we do it. And that's how you get long-term success, is in that maintenance stage. And wherever you are right now, that's okay. The goal, this is important. Take this down. The goal isn't perfection. It's to be honest about your starting point. I'll say that again. The goal isn't perfection. It's to be honest about your starting point. Why do you think so many people are so jacked up December 31st to have their New Year's resolutions? They're going to get in the gym. They're going to eat right. They're going to eat healthy. They're going to quit drinking and quit smoking and quit all these things. And isn't it funny that a lot of the New Year's resolutions are the negatives, the things I'm going to stop doing? And it's kind of like the I forget the term, but if I tell you don't think about a pink elephant, what just popped into your head? A pink elephant. So if you say I'm going to stop drinking, I'm going to stop smoking, you're thinking about smoking. And it's just funny how a lot of New Year's resolutions are about the negative things, whereas maybe just, again, mindset shift, switch to the positive things. I'm going to start doing this. I'm going to start doing this. And then that's where you put your focus on. And that's where your attention goes, your habits will follow. But it's about being honest where your starting point is. If you would like to be in the action phase, but you got to be honest, I don't know if I'm that committed just yet, or maybe I don't have all my proverbial ducks in a row. I'm not sure how to start on this. So I want to be here, but if I'm being honest with myself, I'm really here. Hey, at least I'm not here. And if I am, that's great too. But if I'm honestly here, then I can start here and I can work towards that next phase. I hope that makes sense. Because being honest with your starting point means you're being honest with every new spot that you're in this journey. So think about this. Think about what stage describes where you are today as you're watching this. Where are you? Are you in the pre-contemplation phase? Are you in the contemplation where you're, I think I need to give that some attention? The preparation phase, which I'm starting to look things up, maybe looking at different plans, different strategies. I'm in the action plan. I've picked a strategy and now I'm sticking to it and beginning to be consistent with it. Or I'm in the maintenance phase. I did that a few months ago and now here I am, but I want to kind of maintain and maybe even level up a little bit. So no judgment, just awareness. Think about where you are in those 5 stages. Write it down. Just for you don't have to show it to the class. Just write it down for yourself so you know where you're at, and put the date on it. We're recording this on on January 6th. So put down January 6th, whatever time it is, and here's where I'm at. Just being honest. And this is for something for you to maybe look back at. If you do any journaling, maybe put it in your journal. But what phase are you really at? Okay, so hopefully that makes some sense to you. The next thing we're going to look at are some barriers to readiness. What might be keeping you from maybe taking that next step, from going from preparation to action, or from contemplation to preparation. What are some of the barriers? Most people want to change, but they're just not ready because of some of these things that are just holding them back. Here's a few of them. Fear of failure. That's a biggie. Fear of failure. What if I try it and I can't stick with it? What if it just doesn't work out? That's a big one. Here's another big one. Overwhelm. Feeling like the journey is too big or too complicated and that you won't be able to stick with it because it's just too many moving parts. That's a big barrier to making some positive change, but it looks like a mountain, and that's just how you see it right now. Again, we're going to talk about being honest with your awareness. Overwhelm is a big one. So yeah, fear of failure, overwhelm, all or nothing thinking, believing that it's pointless unless you do it all perfectly. And I got to admit, the overwhelm, fear of failure, all of these were me, and to some degree or another. And this is one that kind of gets me, used to get me in more than one area of my life, is that all or nothing. It's got to be perfect, or it's just not right. And that's going to hurt you, because what's the expression? Done is better than perfect. Can't steer a parked car. Hello, Natasha. How are you, young lady? I see you in the chat. Is that on? That is on the YouTubes. Okay, wonderful. But yeah, all or nothing thinking you got to be perfect. Doing something's better than doing nothing, and we can fix it as we go. You literally, it's like someone once told me, remember that boats don't have brakes. And I was like, what does that mean? Well, if you've got momentum and you're just letting it go, there are no brakes. You're going to have to steer the thing with that forward momentum to course correct. Again, can't steer a parked car either. Next one, the next barrier to change, lack of clarity, not knowing where you're starting and not knowing where you're going. If you don't know why you're doing something, and I don't mean the nitty gritty, but I mean, if you don't have any idea of your starting point, remember we talked earlier about be honest in that spectrum, where you're starting, know where you're at. If you can comfortably say, I know I'd like to be in the action phase, but I'm still in the preparation phase, that's where you need to be. You need to own where you are and get some clarity on that. Okay, I'm here. These are the steps I need to focus on. I'll focus on those next, the action steps, the action plan. I'll focus on that soon. But right now I'm in the preparation phase and I'm comfortable in my own skin, in my own journey. So getting clarity can help remove and lessen that burden of not knowing and that barrier to getting things started. Here's another one, low self-worth. Deep down, you don't believe that you're worth it, that you're worthy of succeeding at this. Again, something that plagued me growing up was just having a horrible self-image and self-worth. And that can come from all kinds of things. Your environment growing up. I'm not going to get into a lot of the psychology of it, but just recognizing, being aware that it may be there, and that if that for you, if that is a thing, it's a thing, and be honest about that. Once you can recognize it and you're aware, then you can make some steps to overcome that. But understand, I'm going to tell you this: if you're hearing my voice, you are worthy to succeed. God made you. He didn't make any junk. He didn't make any mistakes. You're not an accident. So let's pick up, let's lock arms, and we can go through this thing together. Another place where that can kind of creep in is, I've tried all these different things. I've tried to lose weight. I've tried to get healthy. I've tried all these different things in the past, different plans, different programs. And, for whatever reason, they didn't work, or they worked for a little while, but then they stopped working. And I just don't want to go through it again. I don't want to face that, again, fear of failure. And then that affects your self-worth. Maybe I'm just not worth the effort. Like I said, you are worth the effort. You heard it. You heard it here first. You heard it here again. You're worth the effort. And understand these barriers that we're talking about: fear of failure, overwhelm, all or nothing thinking, lack of clarity, low self-worth. These barriers, they're not a sign of weakness. They're signs of being human. Things like this, we all face things that want to keep us down. Sometimes it's self-imposed, sometimes it's other people, sometimes it's just simply situations. But you're worth it, and you're not in this alone. And there are always ways and options once you're aware of where you're at. And that's one of the things that a health journey and a health coach, a lifestyle coach, can help you with, is to how to navigate that when you maybe lose a little clarity, maybe when you aren't sure, if you can succeed at it or not. So let's do this. Think about those different barriers to moving forward. Which of those barriers resonates the most with you right now? Which of those are you like, okay, maybe a little bit of all of them, but that's the one that really hits home with me. Write that down and think about one way that you could begin to challenge that belief. If there's something, how can you attack? That's attacking me, but I'm not going to be defensive any longer. I'm going to be offensive. How can I take one little step towards one of those barriers to change? So just think about that. And again, if you are a journaler, I'm a journaler, maybe that might be a good place to write that down, and then go back and look at it some more, think on it some more. Do a continuing saga in your journal as you kind of unpack this, just in your own time, in your own thoughts. So we've talked about what is readiness and the trans-theoretical model, those 5 stages. We've talked about some barriers to readiness. Now we're going to talk about the mindset of change. Well, that sounds impressive. What does that mean? To move forward, we need to shift our mindset from perfection to progress. And I said earlier, that common expression, done is better than perfect. That doesn't mean that you don't do your best and you don't, want to achieve the most you can and optimize it. But you want to keep moving. You don't want to wait till everything is just ready and then you're going to move, or that it's not worth it if you don't have it all perfect, because it'll never be perfect. That's an ideal. We're not going to get too philosophical, but I heard this a long time ago, and I've applied it to everything in my life, which is simply, you strive for excellence, not perfection. Strive for excellence. There's 2 different kinds of minds: a fixed mindset, and then there's a growth mindset. A fixed mindset will say, I'm just not any good at this. A growth mindset says, I can learn, improve, and get better with time. Again, we want to transition from that all or nothing perfectionism, the all or nothing thinking, to growth mindset and moving forward and progress. So yeah, I can learn, I can improve, I can get better at this. Change begins when we stop asking, can I do this? And start asking, how can I make this work for me? And some of you may follow him in the financial world, Robert Kiyosaki. He said, one of his mantras is, stop saying, can I afford that? Or saying, I can't afford that, to saying, how can I afford that? So instead of saying, can I even do that? Can I even get healthy? Can I even get my A1C down? Change your thinking to, how can I make that happen? How can I get my A1C to slowly begin to come down? what are some steps that over time I can take to make that happen? You're solution oriented. Instead of defeatism, you're solution oriented. And oh yeah, I took some notes down. Momentum is built through consistency, not intensity. Let me repeat that. Momentum is built through consistency, not intensity, which means consistency over time. I mean, you're the same. You don't change. You keep doing those things. You're not, well, I feel good today, so I'm going to do all the right things. Oh, I'm feeling kind of crummy today, so I'm going to slack off. Consistency means endurance, means steadfastness. One of my favorite books that I give to clients early on when they work with me is a book called The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson. And incredible book. I highly recommend it. He talks about mastering the mundane, the things that are easy to do, but that are also easy not to do. You master the mundane. No one thinks a whole lot about, we talked last time about every hour, get up and take a 5 or 10 minute little walk around the office or whatever, or, doing some air squats when you go to the potty, or doing some wall push-ups when you go to refill your coffee at the coffee pot. But you do those little things consistently, compounded over time, and you'll lead to success. Or you can grab the donut. One set of air squats is not going to make you, Mr. Olympia. But consistently over time, you're going to see improvement. One donut is not going to kill you. Having that same donut every day, day in and out over time, will have some negative effects. And it's about the compounding effect over time. Good decisions will lead consistently over time to a good outcome. Lack of, poor judgment will lead to some negative consequences compounded over time. And this reminds me of a story, and I forget who. I think it wasn't Columbus, but it was someone sailing from the European continent over to the New World, and they were trying to get there, and they left and they plotted their course, and they should have landed somewhere in the mid-Atlantic, but for some reason they ended up down in South America. And when they went back and looked at it, the problem was, they got so off course because of something as simple as the navigator failed to sharpen his pencil. So what does that mean? You got a very fine point on your pencil to plot your course, but you don't sharpen that pencil. Well, the line gets a little wider. It's not quite as clear. You're half a degree off. Then you're half a degree off. Then you're half a degree off. And then instead of landing in Virginia, you're in South America. So again, what's that mean? Doing those little things, the things that are easy to do, like sharpening a pencil, can get you where you want to go. Not doing those simple little things like sharpening a pencil can get you somewhere you had no intention of being, and you don't know how you got there. And now you've got a lot of extra work to get where you do want to go. So keep that in mind, that it's the process, it's the journey. One of the things I tell clients is we work on SMART goals, but I say set a goal. Then we're going to reverse engineer it to get those action steps into bite sizes that you can handle. And then once we have those steps, kind of forget the goal and just focus on steps. Embrace that process, and embrace the steps that you take. Master the mundane, and the goal will happen just because you're staying consistent. If you faint not, Galatians 6:9. So let's do this. In your journal, write this down too. Write down one past success, big or small, that proves that you can change. Think of something that was difficult. You're like, I don't know, but you did it anyway. They say you can, if you're afraid to do something, we'll do it scared. Don't not do it. Just do it scared. That's fine. Gary V, he's got a lot of colorful quotes to that effect too. And the point is, we all face fear, but you're bigger than that. If you get behind that and you believe you're bigger than the fear, do it anyway. You've done it in the past. Think of something and write down something that you've done. It may be related to wellness. A colleague of mine, Bronson Dan, he said, talking about progressive overload in his lifting, he said there should be a point where you're like, you get under that bar and you're like, holy crap, I don't know if I can lift this. And you do it anyway. But then you take a deep breath and you power on, you power through it. Think of what that thing might be. And again, we're not sharing notes with the class. This is for you. This is an exercise for you to gain awareness of who you are and to know that you can do, you're made to do hard things. You're made to do difficult things. All right, so quick sip of my decaf and we'll be right back. All right, so we've talked about the mindset of change. We've talked about the barriers. Now let's talk about building motivation. What does that mean? Motivation isn't something that you wait for. It's something that you build. And you're not born with motivation. You have to cultivate that by being aware and finding those things, the thing that you just found out, that you just reminded yourself, I can do hard things. I've done it in the past here, and here. Well, now you take that and you realize, yeah, I've done it in the past. I can build on that success and apply those same tactics, mental tactics, to build your own confidence. And there's a difference also between motivation and inspiration. And I'll say this, we talk a lot about motivation in this wellness space. But motivation will only get you so far. You can build it, you can maintain it, and that's a good thing. I'm not against that at all. I'm very pro motivation. But that's what they would call extrinsic motivation, outside stimulation, outside motivation. Internal motivation is what's going to be. What is your why? Bronson Dan again says, does your why make you cry? Is it something you can get that passionate about? And when you know that can push you on. I know for some people, maybe they're getting up a little bit in age and I'm creaking a little bit. I want to be here for my kids, or I want to be here to play with my grandkids. I want to be able to go up the steps and not huff and puff. I want to be able to just go out and enjoy a nice long walk or a hike with my spouse. Things like that. I want to be able to do yard work and not be a thing. It not be drudgery. It not be something that I just dread because I physically have challenges with that. Maybe it's something like that. Maybe there's also some inspiration. Inspiration is a little different than motivation. Motivation moves you. Inspiration springs out of you. Spirit within. Like I said, this body is the temple of the Holy Spirit. And so I'm going to take care of it because I believe God put me on this earth for a purpose, to do something. And I need to be at the best I can be in order to make that happen. So I can reach people and we can move through life together. So maybe that's part of your motivation and inspiration. They go hand in hand. So just start to think about some things in the past that have done that. There's two types. I mentioned there's external motivation. You want to look better, fit into your clothes. You want to impress, your spouse or other folks. Then there's the internal motivation, wanting to feel better, living longer, having more energy, taking control of your life. And then there's also the inspiration. Those things where it goes deeper than the mental. It goes deeper than the physical, than the mental, and it's a spiritual thing for you. Consider that. External motivation can start you on your journey, but it's going to be that internal motivation, your why, air quotes, your why. That's what's going to keep you going. Your internal motivation and your inspiration will keep you going. So let's do a little exercise. Close your eyes for a minute and imagine that it's 90 days from now and you've made progress in your health. You said you've taken some of these barriers and you've kind of knocked them in their teeth, and you said, no, I can do this. I'm not going to let fear hold me back. I'll do it anyway. And I know that I'm not alone. I know what stage I'm at. If I'm in the pre-contemplation, the contemplation, preparation, I'm in the action phase, wherever you're at. I'm in the maintenance stage. But you've 90 days from now. So January, February, at the end of March, 90 days from now, you've had some success with this. How do you feel when you wake up? And these would be great journal prompts for yourself. 90 days, future you, 90 days. How do you feel when you wake up? Think about that. How do your clothes fit? What's different in your energy level, your confidence? What's different in your relationships with other people? See, this is what your vision is. This is your why. When you connect with that, your readiness to make a real change is going to skyrocket. And yeah, like I said, I did an interview with Bronson Dant maybe a year or so ago, and it was called "Does Your Why Make You Cry?" If you wanted to look that up, he has some very, very compelling stories. He's very passionate about finding that why. What's really going to drive you? The clothes fitting better, sure, that's for a while. But what's going to make you want to do it when you don't want to, but you do it anyway? Those things that are easy to do, that are also easy not to do. What's going to make you do them anyway? So you can get and stay on that slight edge. So those are just a few things that I wanted to cover tonight. This is kind of day two, but we're talking readiness to change. So just a quick recap. What is readiness? We talked about the different stages: pre-contemplation, contemplation, preparation, action, and maintenance. Some barriers to readiness. We talked about fear of failure, overwhelm, all or nothing thinking, lack of clarity, low self-worth. You are worthy. The mindset of change. It's not perfection, it's progress. Remember, strive for excellence, not perfection. And you want to build your motivation, your external motivation. And yeah, we do need that, but also build that inner motivation, because that's going to be your why. And that's what's going to keep you going when things get tough and when you're having to just kind of push through it. But also know this: you're not alone. There's other people out there. There's health coaches like myself. There's communities out there. We're pulling some folks together in a PhD synergy community. There's people out there. There's local groups. Find some like-minded people that you can lock arms with. That they may be in a different stage than you, but hey, we're all in the same boat together. All oars rowing in the same direction. So that's kind of what I wanted to cover. And what I'll do is I'll just kind of leave these various chats open for just a minute or two. If someone has a question, if you do, great, we'll answer it. If not a big deal, but we'll give the obligatory 60 seconds for a question or two to pop in. All right. Well, the only question that I had that came through that we didn't already cover was, I mentioned briefly at the beginning about the 4 pillars. I mentioned it the last time. we've got 4 pillars in PhD Synergy that we go with: diet and nutrition, sleep and rest, activity and exercise, and your mindset. And they all 4 work together. The easiest point of entry, we talked about barriers. Well, the easiest point of entry is going to be your diet. You can see results, relatively quickly with some dietary changes. So that's kind of what, the synergy starts with a PhD, a proper human diet. Then it's sleep, which is notoriously undervalued, I think. So much happens while metabolic healing while we sleep. So that's number 2. Number 3 is diet and exercise. 2 different things. And we talked the last time about formal exercise, strength training, HIIT, cardio, versus NEAT, the non-exercise activity, thermogenesis. Just the energy. It's kind of like your basal metabolic rate. What energy are you burning just to keep the lights on? And NEAT is kind of just the little incidental, the fidgeting, the little things that you do there, that kind of activity, in addition to formal exercise. And then your mindset, which takes the longest amount of time to see results, I think, but that kind of is the underpinning for everything. How you view yourself, how you view the process, and how you view life is essential. And that's why that's woven into every piece of these 4 pillars. So someone asked about that. PhDsynergy.com. You can go there. You can get a free download, free ebook that kind of details out these 4 pillars. So it's a free download. It's a gift. Just go ahead and grab it. PhDsynergy.com. And that's kind of, everything else that people have asked on this one. Yeah, we've already covered. So a little bit of homework. Take a few minutes tonight, tomorrow. Reflect on this. What stage of readiness are you in? What's one barrier that keeps you from taking action? And what's one personal reason? What's one part of your why that makes these changes that are worth it? What would make it worth it to you? So with that, tomorrow we're going to talk about those 4 pillars. What are those? In detail, we're going to cover those. So go grab that ebook, and then we'll be back tomorrow, same time, same bat channel, and just talk a little bit about the 4 pillars of PhD Synergy and 4 pillars to help you get some metabolic momentum in 2026. With that, we're signing off, and we will see you next time.